Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Thriving with Trish. And if you're new here, welcome. I figured today we could cover a fun little topic about lessons I learned in my 20s now that I'm now in my 30s. Burnout doesn't care how much money you make. When you are done, when you need a break, when you really need to stop and reset, that's more important than any money that you have. Motherhood doesn't make you disappear. Let go of things that don't serve you. You don't have to follow what everyone else is doing. I'm so much more than the job that I work to pay my bills. You can want more than motherhood, and that is a reasonable ask of yourself, of your partner, of just life in general. My 20s was not very polished. I made a lot of missteps and took a lot of risk at the same time that I'm continuing to learn from. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm gonna first reflect on health and wellness. So my first lesson is your body is not a project, it's your partner. It is what's going to carry you from the day you're born until the day you are no longer here. So for me, I spent a lot of my time in my 20s trying to shrink myself, whether it was through the way I was eating, the way I was working out, the mentality that I had at the time. And I found that instead of listening to my body and figuring out what it needed, I was chasing some unrealistic goals. So don't be like me and use your body as your partner. Your body's not here for optics. Your body's not here for views. Yes, be a healthy version of yourself, but at the same time, don't spend all your time in your 20s trying to figure out how to become the thinnest version of yourself. Lesson two, being healthy does not mean being smaller. And I learned this the hard way. Throughout my 20s, there was 5 years or so where I was vegetarian. It was great for me. I was eating lots of vegetables, lots of fruits, and diving into a lot of meals and creating things that I've never created before. So, yeah, I was doing a good job of taking care of myself in that regard. But at the same time, I was lacking in other nutrients that I didn't even know. A trip to the doctor actually changed my life, and I found out that I had Hashimoto's, and that stopped me in my tracks. It's been a lot of reflecting from my 20s into my 30s now. You did your best, you thought you were doing your best, but you also could have used a bit more guidance and spent less time focusing on getting to a smaller version of yourself, because at the end of the day, small is good, but small is not necessarily healthy. Lesson three, consistency beats intensity every time. I was that person that the harder I worked out in the gym, the heavier I was lifting, the faster I was running, the more I could out train the guys that were around me, that I was doing the thing. But then I quickly realized that led to burnout. I had days and weeks where my body was so sore from overtraining and overworking myself that I was basically a shell and couldn't really do much. So now I'm at a place where I'm looking for more joyful movement. And of course, I'll have some intense workouts, but I'll scale back as I need to. If I notice that I had a really rough workout and my body is feeling extremely sore, instead of doing another intense workout on top of that, I will pivot to something that might be a lot more low intensity that I can make myself through. So it's all about incremental changes in those small things. Other things that I wasn't accounting for at the same time was my sleep. It was a horrible sleeper. I still am a horrible sleeper, but working on it. Incremental consistencies that's going to get me to being a more consistent version of myself and not leading to more burnout. So my next lesson, you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. I was never a really big bandwagoner except for one area of my life, and that was where I wanted to try different fitness things, different health things, different diets and such. And I quickly learned that what everyone else was doing was not right for me. I eliminated so many foods in my diet at one point because I really thought that I had a gluten intolerance. And the next few months, I was like, let's try keto, and just working on these various different diets, trying to manipulate my body from here to there. It just wasn't what worked for me. So now, what's working for me is one, letting go of shame, adopting those cultural foods that I was raised with, but putting them in a healthier form. Let go of things that don't serve you. You don't have to follow what everyone else is doing. So it just comes down to finding what works for you and sticking to it. Okay, so this next one's a big one. Hormones, sleep, rest, and stress, okay, matter more than the workouts that you're doing in the gym, whatever the split is for the week. No matter how much you were working out, it doesn't matter if you weren't sleeping. It doesn't matter if your hormones were out of whack. And in my 20s, I found that I experienced a lot of issues with my adrenal system and cortisol levels. I was wondering why, even though I was training super hard in the gym that my body wasn't doing what I needed it to do. I was getting 4 hours of sleep at night and then working a full 8 hour day at work, thinking that I was going to be my best self and want to work out after. But no, in my 20s, I thought I could do it all. I thought I could be it all. But at my core, I wasn't even taking care of myself. And I know that now, which is why I'm working on it. It's a hard truth. I know it's a hard truth, but yeah, focus on those things: your sleep, your hormone levels, your stress levels. They all go hand in hand. And without a balance of all those things, you basically become a shell of yourself. So these next lessons evolve around career, work, business, all the above. Whew, okay. In my 20s, I was really focused on climbing the corporate ladder. Why? I don't know. That's what we were told to do. So I found myself overworking and chasing these ambitious goals of mine that didn't necessarily lead to success that I wanted. But at the same time, I was stressed like all the time. I wasn't resting. It was just unhealthy overall. I was burning out quickly in a lot of those jobs. While I was not afraid to leave a job in my 20s, I definitely was trying to prove myself. And for me, I thought that being able to say you work the 10-hour shift or you stayed the office for those later hours, that just meant that you were doing the thing. Like to me, burnout was a badge of honor. Was I taking care of myself? No. By now, you're probably noticing a trend. I'm not a person who sleeps. I'm working on it because the dreams that I have for myself are so big that rest becomes less of a priority. So I'm working on that. But let's move on to the next lesson. Your job title is not your identity. If you started out in corporate America early, then you are probably guilty of this too. You're meeting a group of people for the first time, and one of the first questions you're asked is, what do you do? I was always proud of what I did. To tell someone like, oh yeah, I'm a marketing manager. But in essence, it really didn't matter. At the end of the day, at the end of the conversation, we weren't talking about what we were doing at work. So I now know that I should not be clinging to some sort of title or job role or whatever the KPIs or OKRs are for my position. I'm so much more than the job that I work to pay my bills. Okay, so just because you're good at something, it doesn't mean it's your calling. I think I knew early on in my corporate career, especially because I worked for a lot of startups, that as much as I love marketing, as much as it was something that I always wanted to do, I did not see myself wanting to work in corporate America as a marketer forever. But because I was so good at my job, took advantage of that. It helped to bolster my paychecks, helped to get those titles that by the end of the day don't mean anything. But I think it just came from a place of fear of not wanting to start from zero. I knew for a while that I wanted to figure out how to take my business to the next level and work from there. But because of the safety of knowing this one thing and being able to execute it well, I stuck to it. So don't be afraid to realize that something's not your passion and ditching it when it's no longer something that's serving you. Money does not fix burnout. Even if I could go on the vacation or afford the massages, by the time I got back to work, that stress was still there waiting for me, and I had to just swallow the vacation or the massage that I just had and get back on my grind. But yeah, no, burnout doesn't care how much money you make. When you are done, when you need a break, when you really need to stop and like reset, that's more important than any money that you have. The money, yes, will help you get out of the burnout in some ways. You can buy access to things. You can go do all the self-care things to fix yourself. But in essence, burnout is something that, yes, takes time to recover from. And even in my 30s, I'm still recovering from burnout from my 20s. So just know that it's not worth it. And yes, chase the money and take care of yourself, but it's not everything at the end of the day. All right, so this is a tough one, but boundaries make you better, not selfish. As someone who has always been the go-to person that everyone comes to, trauma dump, look for advice, ask questions, borrow XYZ, I started setting up some really hefty boundaries in my late 20s. I have to say shout out to my husband because he's definitely the king of putting up boundaries on everyone, including me. And because of him, I slowly learned how to build those boundaries and to uphold them. So Remember, boundaries make you better, not selfish. And anyone who's making you feel as if you're selfish for setting up boundaries, whether it's friends, family members, or even coworkers, then that's their business. All right. The next series of lessons is going to cover motherhood, marriage, and identity. So let's jump in. As someone who got married in her 20s, this lesson is on marriage. Marriage does not complete you, it reveals you. It is a mirror. It's a mirror that allows you to see your strengths, your weaknesses, your flaws, and you're being forced to bring it all to the front. As someone who was not taught a lot about what to look for in a marriage, I'm fortunate enough to have married a partner who makes marriage worth it. So in those moments where things get really hard and rocky, it's not as easy to walk away because we built so much. And getting to a place where I have no desire to walk away has been so rewarding. And shout out to my husband. Love you, babe. The next lesson is on motherhood, and that is motherhood doesn't make you disappear, okay? In some ways, it becomes a superpower that you didn't know you had. And I can honestly say that as a mom, that I feel a lot more powerful now than prior to having my baby. One of my biggest fears when becoming a mom was that I was going to lose myself, that this baby's going to take over my entire life and I will not have any more time for myself, and all my dreams, goals, and aspirations are just going to get put on the back burner and I'm going to be stuck just taking care of this little kiddo who needs me. I find myself to be a lot more discerning, more focused on my why, and trying to figure out, what do I want? And what do I want this legacy that I'm building to be, instead of bogging me down like I expected? She's giving me a lot more hope. I can do it, even with having a baby. Yes, you will have to hit pause for a moment, as most mom will, especially when you're in the newborn trenches, but you get out of it. And when you're out of it, you can try to find a new version of yourself. So motherhood is a superpower that you're unlocking. So tap in. You can want more than motherhood, and that is a reasonable ask of yourself, of your partner, of just life in general. I have a lot of moments where I feel really guilty for putting a lot more focus on things that I care about, those dreams and goals and aspirations that I'm trying to hit. And the guilt eats me alive. But I know that until my cup is full, I can't give to my child. So next, you need a village while you can do it all by yourself. I learned the hard way that you need a village. I have this very Pinterest picture perfect view of what my life would be. I did everything right. I married my spouse. I've accomplished a 6-figure job. I checked this box over here for house and car and white picket fence and all the above. It was very picturesque. But even in having all of that, you still need a village. You still need support. You are not an island. And as someone who never asked for help, I would rather thug it out. I learned the hard way that if help is coming, take it, especially if it's coming from a genuine place. Have discernment with accepting the help and use some of that money that you're making to get the help that you need. One of the things that we invested in, even before we had baby, was having someone come and clean our house. It makes it easier on me because as a perfectionist who likes everything to be orderly and whatnot, I have a husband who's not. Don't settle on thinking that you have to do it all alone. As you go through your 20s, your identity will shift. I can think of a few pivotal shifts that happened in my 20s, from the shift of right after you graduate college, or actually, let's go back, the shift where you turn 21 and now you're officially an adult. I did feel like an adult in that moment. But then when you graduate college, it's like another big shift. All of the friends start to scatter and go off and live their lives, and things get a little bit quieter. You become more enmeshed with the people that you're working with rather than the friends that you previously had. Or you really start to climb the corporate ladder. So now your identity becomes a part of the titles that you're carrying. And then you may move somewhere else, and then you find new friends and you're starting to mesh with them too. And then if you're like me, then you have a baby in your late 20s, and then that's another big shift. Or you get married like I did in my mid-20s, and now you have another title added to that long list of titles that you're now carrying. You're carrying the weight of all this, and as you're going through each of these phases, your identity will shift. So go with the flow. Honor and respect the person who got you from A to B, but you have to let them go. So this next segment of Lessons from My 20s is all about personal growth and inner work. So this next lesson is big. You can't outwork your wounds. I was the type of person who would have a big looming cloud over my head, a situation I was avoiding dealing with, or something that may have struck me the wrong way. And I would just throw myself into anything else but fixing that issue. I just threw myself into work. I threw myself into anything but dealing with those issues and emotions and feelings head on. I was trying to outwork those feelings that I was having and thinking that I could ignore them and they would go away. You're not too much and you're not enough. I've been both, whether it was in friendships, relationships, working environments, all the above. I've dealt with being on both sides of the spectrum. I had to water myself down to fit in, whether that was with ex-partners, ex-friends, or workplaces. And the truth is, all along, I was enough. I just had to realize it and recognize that I didn't need someone else to tell me that I was enough. Hard truth, but a really valid one. Next lesson: grief and joy can coexist in the same breath. There's plenty of moments where I wanted to cry, but I laughed. There's plenty of moments where I was happy, but had sadness. I personally went through a traumatic loss in my 20s, and that was losing my younger sister who passed away. And I dealt with that grief for a lot longer than I thought I should have. I learned that grief isn't linear, that it has no end. I think too many times we try to skip over those hard emotions and you just want to be seen as this happy person. If you are sad, cry. If you are happy, be happy. If you are happy when you should be sad, honor that too. Grief is a wild thing and it will ebb and flow and will have you doing some crazy things, okay? Duality happens. You can be happy and sad at the same time. This one is important to me, and it's one that I'm still heavily focusing on now in my 30s, and that is joy is a practice, it's not a reward. When it comes to joy, it's something that you create through small rituals, through moments of gratitude, and just choosing your peace in a lot of situations. This is a big one I'm continuing to learn as I go through my 30s, and that is I can always choose joy. Instead of letting that 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, even an hour of my day that kind of went awry ruin my day, I'm choosing to skip past it and focus on the rest of the day that I have to make it through. But I'm looking for those little pockets of joy, whether it's watching the sunrise, catching the sunset, and that being beautiful, or hearing the laughter of my baby, giggling over the silliest little things. Joy is a practice. You choose to see the light, you choose to see the positive, and shout out to God because it all comes from Him. Let's wrap up these lessons from my 20s. These lessons were not all pretty. Some came with time, therapy, and just downright confronting myself. And I'm going to continue to learn from these lessons. Realization takes a lot of effort and it sucks at times, but I'm very grateful for my 20s. As I'm now in my 30s, I'm looking forward to these years. They said the 30s is your best decade, and so far, they're not wrong. I'm loving my 30s a lot more. I'm loving the person I'm becoming, and I honestly couldn't be happier. Whether you're in your 20s, you've exited your 20s, and now in your 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever the case may be, drop a comment below and let me know what lessons stuck out to you the most and which ones you've learned or continue to learn, or if I haven't mentioned one that you may have been learning, let me know in the comments. And please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks everyone. Bye.